You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Guys, coming to you this week with another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. But no, thankfully not a Carolina Reaper. That's right. Don't have to worry about that.
No.
Not this week. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And
Keith Cheatham.
Oh.
They never had to worry about the Reaper. It was me and Sean. I'm sure they would love to see us do it again.
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
They don't. As long as they don't have to suffer with you.
There will be a day.
There will be a day.
You all are already.
We're already looking at like other things that we could put in our mouths.
Trying to bring it back.
Yep. I think it's actually when you start with the worst.
Everything else is like.
What else is there?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
next
like.
thing we just
what's
need to
there to
shoot
compare
one
it to?
We need to
Exactly.
shoot one another or something. I think that would be the next thing.
In the mouth.
Put a bulletproof vest on and get shot. We'll see if we can take that.
This is what we talked about. We said this show was going to quickly become Jackass.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of what we're aiming for now.
Yeah.
But no,
I kind of want to do that now, Sean.
Yeah.
Just pull it very fast and see how
Yeah.
it works.
Don't try this at home, kids.
My mom's gonna watch. My mom's gonna watch this and be like, "Don't you do it."
I have to see if I still have mine.
Oh, you have a bulletproof vest?
I had to wear one at Brinks, so
Oh,
I might still have
so
it.
you
I had
kept
to
it.
buy it. Yeah.
Oh,
so
they
I might
didn't-
still have it somewhere.
Did you buy that on the black market?
No, you buy it from a bulletproof vest manufacturer.
I know.
I bought it through Brinks, but
I'm
I paid
asking-
for it.
Oh, you did? Okay. How
Asking
much
for a
was
friend,
it? How
like
much
$120.
That's not bad.
No,
That
that's
wasn't
not
bad
bad
at all.
I actually figured it would.
Hopefully,
be a
it
lot
would have
more.
actually
Yeah.
stopped the bullet. It's like went cheap on the bulletproof vest.
It's like, well, that's one area
It's-
where you don't cut costs.
It's like, yeah, that'll stop a 22. Anything else, though, it's like, wow.
They said it would stop anything other than a rifle. It wouldn't
wow.
stop a rifle.
Like,
A 45, it would stop.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Supposedly.
like unless somebody's downtown on one of them buildings, trying to snipe you coming out of that Brinks truck. I mean, we've seen the town.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We know what
You'd-
people are capable.
You'd be
of.
done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to rob a Brinks truck, the trucks won't stop a rifle either. So, just saying.
Well,
the glass
Huh.
won't.
he's giving you some inside
If you-
info
if
right
you got
there.
an AK laying around and you want some extra cash,
That's the way to do it.
So they wouldn't survive Ben Affleck at all.
no.
Okay.
No.
Oh wow!
Absolutely
So
not.
that movie was very accurate.
Yeah.
We know that. We know that it was very accurate about showing us what Boston looked
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all.
What Boston looked like.
like. All right, guys,
Go there.
we got a great show planned for you because there was a monumental thing that took place this past week.
Yeah.
That's right. It has been several months.
Okay, I got confused at
I
first.
thought we were starting with
What?
the other
I-
Yeah,
monumental
Oh,
thing.
you said we were going to start
I
with
said- I
something
sounded
else.
sad
So
when
you
I said
said,
yeah.
we see a great thing happened, and I was like, dang.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, I was starting with where we were already at, which was we were laughing and
Yeah,
joking
yeah.
around.
was
So I
good.
was like, I didn't
Yeah.
want to segue into something
Yeah.
just completely.
But before the show, you
Right.
said we're
Moved it.
starting.
I know I did. This is what I do. I have
He's gotta
short-term
mix it
memory
up.
loss.
Yeah, and everybody's confused right now.
Yeah.
They have no idea what we're talking about.
Okay, first off, I want to start off by saying,
Yeah,
which
go
we're
ahead.
going to talk about a little bit later in the show, all of our experience, the fact that for several months now we have not been able to get back to the theater, and finally
We did.
we did.
And that was the good monumental
That
thing
was
that
the good
happened.
monumental
As we went back to the bad thing we're talking about.
The terrible, sad, and tragic thing that happened
Was the movie we saw.
That's true too. But no,
yeah,
but
that
it
too.
was the passing of Chadwick Boseman,
Yes.
which we all know about.
Just
extremely
absolutely
shocking.
and
Yeah.
completely out of nowhere. No one, obviously, I mean, he's a young actor.
Yeah, yeah.
For one thing, I am kind of pissed about. I still have not
Figured out his age.
I don't know. Everybody, there's so many different places. I mean, CBS reported
Everybody's
that he was
They have
43.
different
saying 43
Birth
now.
years. Like, they don't even know his
Yeah.
birthday. I'm like,
Yeah.
doesn't he have a birth certificate?
I was
Somebody
going to
can
say,
ask the
somebody's
family?
got to know.
But
I
I,
mean-
think originally it was reported 42,
Mhm.
and now everybody's saying 43. But the IMDb page and a few other places still say he was born in 77,
Six.
which would be 42.
Yes.
76 is the 43. So there's
Yeah.
conflicting views. But besides his
Doesn't
age,
matter.
he was, too young.
I was going to say, at
Despite-
this point,
yeah.
early 40s, absolutely too young to go. And I think a lot of what has been circulating on social media and within even I've seen on mainstream media, with the kind of honoring him, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because it was a tragic circumstance. I mean, everybody knew him as T'Challa from Black Panther, and absolutely.
Well, the thing that impressed me, and I shared this on my Facebook just because I read it and thought it was impressive.
Yes.
But this guy had posted, whilst battling with colon cancer, Chadwick Boseman managed to film 2017's Marshall, 18's Black Panther, 18's Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, 21 Bridges, The Five Bloods, and then, of course, his final film, which will release posthumously, is Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which they're saying, they're talking is like an Oscar-like performance. Like, they're saying he did a fantastic.
I'm sure
so
he'll
we'll
get
see.
one.
Heath
Ledger style.
But he said he filmed all of those while performing many of his own stunts, being subject to numerous chemotherapy sessions in between filming, and he never once complained. He never once told anybody. He never let it on to the media. And I mean, he did press tours. He visited hospitals himself. And to me, I mean, that's a really admirable person that he battled cancer for 4 years and still physically got up and went to work and did all of that, because filming can be strenuous anyways. They don't have normal schedules. So,
and I think a lot of the pictures that I've seen circulating that have impressed me have just been the ones where, and everybody's been using this, as he's been struggling with colon cancer, and yet he's visiting kids
in
the hospital who are struggling
cancer
with
wards.
cancer.
Yeah.
And I think that just speaks to his character in both ways of visiting children who are, on their deathbed, and then also for him to be in the act of going to work and not using that as a crutch to say, I can't do my job. And I think it just speaks volumes of who he was as a person. And so absolutely just, tremendous sadness to see him lost at such a young age. And
I mean, I admire him even for his privacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in Hollywood, even with something as tragic as finding out that you have cancer, a lot of them even make that public and use it as a way to garner some attention,
right,
or get a certain kind of treatment. And I really feel like the fact that the media didn't know about this was kind of blindsided. I really feel like that his ability to keep that private and, like you said, continue to go to work. I mean, I have to think from a business standpoint. To me, I don't understand how the studios couldn't have known, because
well, I mean, the studios knew.
But that's the thing. It's just like, why even sign and get ready to start filming Black Panther 2 when you know this guy might not be around? And I'm just from a business standpoint, I'm just kind of like,
that I knew, even the director, and I don't know how far up the studio, he didn't let anybody know. He kept it close to the chest.
That's how I feel about it.
And I was going to say, I don't think the major studio heads knew. And I don't think that would have inhibited them from giving him the role of Black Panther.
No,
but I do.
It would have had them looking towards the future,
right, and pre-planning. But and again, I don't think I think this is something for. I mean, knowing him and from seeing him in interviews, I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
But seeing the type of person he was, I think he was someone who persevered, in his daily life by going and working on these movies while struggling with it. And yet, I think maybe in his heart of hearts, he saw through that. I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to overcome this illness, and then maybe, mention, I struggled with that, early on in my career.
Right.
I mean, and that was the other thing I found out that was interesting was that, he just started, in acting, or at least major motion picture films at the age of 36.
Yeah.
So he's a
Yeah.
late bloomer, and then to have such a varied, career to come on the scene like he has, and then to be so young and still pass is just to show you, we only saw, just a smitten of his talent. And it's just it's incredible to see the work of art he created while he was here, but incredibly sad to see what he won't be able to create in the future. So obviously prayers to his family and everything that is going on with them as they prepare to,
put him to rest.
Chadwick Boseman to rest, and Wakanda forever.
Yeah,
it will live on. He truly will live on forever. All right, guys, we are gonna finally move on to something a little bit more uplifting. We talked about it briefly there at the beginning of the show about how we have gotten back to the theaters. We did not go see the film we're about to review, though.
Well, last week we told audiences that we were going to go see and review New Mutants. We did go see New Mutants.
We kept half of our promise.
So why wouldn't we review that? Why did we change it, and what did we change it to?
Being back to the theater was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it was.
The movie was not.
We're going to get into the theater experience.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Yeah.
Yes, because the experience itself wasn't as phenomenal as it could have been through no fault of the people working there, but through AMC themselves.
Right.
But yeah, the movie was terrible. That's all. New Mutants was not good.
So
instead, we decided to review a movie that AMC refuses to show, apparently, because they're buttholes, and that is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
So let's get to it.
Nearly 30 years ago, the most excellent ones, having adventured through time and journeyed through heaven and hell, won the San Dimas Battle of the Bands, skyrocketing their band, the Wild Stallions, to infinite stardom, uniting the world and ushering in peace and prosperity. Or so we thought. It is now the year 2020, and amid political scandals, worldwide pandemics, and rioting in the streets, it's been a hell of a year to live through. While the present world is as far from united as one could imagine, and social distancing and shutdowns have made things that much more bleak, sometimes a little distraction is necessary. Theaters have finally begun to reopen, and a slow trickle of films are beginning to release. And amongst these films comes a movie that definitely won't unite the world either, but will make you forget your woes, if only for a little while. Featuring the return of Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves as Bill S. Preston Esquire and Theodore Ted Logan, directed this time around by Dean Pariseau and written by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon, who created and wrote all three films, Bill and Ted Face the Music. As stated earlier, the present is crap and most odiously non-united. Bill and Ted's victory of the San Dimas Battle of the Bands at the end of Boga's journey only briefly skyrocketed them to stardom, and did not, in fact, permanently unite the world. For the next 29 years, Bill and Ted struggled to create the song that would save the world and create an entire society based around them. Now reality is collapsing in on itself, and if Bill and Ted don't come up with the song in 75 minutes, all of reality will cease to exist. Featuring Bill and Ted traveling once again through time and the afterlife, Bill and Ted Face the Music is a welcome sequel to the original two films. Keeping true to the tone and spirit of the originals, the bizarre yet witty comedy is welcome and never out of place. Unlike many modern sequels to older franchises, the third Bill and Ted remember what made people fall in love with the originals and stays true to their brand of humor and writing. But there is one sad exception. While hilariously written and acted, the story itself and focus of the film gets a little muddled along the way. Joining Reeves and Winter are Samara Weaving and Bridget Lundy Payne as Theodora Tia Preston and Wilhelmina Billy Logan, respectively, the daughters of Bill and Ted. A large chunk of the film focuses on Tia and Billy's own journey across time to gather history's greatest musicians to help their dads, while Bill and Ted travel through time to try and get an already written song from their future selves. There is nothing initially wrong with this idea, but neither Tia or Billy are well developed, nor are Bill and Ted's relationship with them. In fact, more focus is put on Bill and Ted's relationship with the princesses from the first two films than on their daughters, who form a more integral part of the film's climax and the entire series' legacy. With Billy and Tia becoming such significant characters in such a short amount of time, and devoid of their own personalities, much of the scenes involving them just left me wishing I could get back to the actual Bill and Ted. It's not that the kids were a bad idea, as Boga's Journey showed Bill and Ted with kids at its end. It's just that they aren't utilized to the fullest, and pull the rug out from Bill and Ted when it matters most. Outside of this small letdown in the story, Face the Music is an awesome end to Bill and Ted. Winter and Reeves step back into the roles as though they never left, nailing the dialogue and offering up genuine laughs. The plot is simple but good, offering a nice combination of elements from both previous movies. Bill and Ted Face the Music will make you laugh, and remember why you fell in love with the originals, and only truly falters when the focus is taken off of the title characters. If not for this, it could have been a perfect ending to a hilarious trilogy. As is, Face the Music is still a solid third movie that doesn't do Bill and Ted the true justice they deserve. I give Bill and Ted Face the Music 3 out of 4 stars.
Excellent,
Dude.
Dude, like 3 out of 4 stars, man. That's pretty radical.
They don't say radical.
Wow.
I know they don't say
They're
radical.
not surfers.
Totally.
I just combined the two. Just
I found this thing online. It's hilarious. It's like how to speak like Bill and Ted, and it has do's and don'ts. And like that was one of them. It's like things they never say. Radical.
I totally butchered it.
I know that.
I totally did a don't. No, well, this movie was not a don't.
I
was
liked
a do.
it. I was disappointed in some aspects for sure, but I did like it.
I did too. I think it's weird because it's one of those movies where you got to have a taste for it or not.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
And I do understand why some people are just not a Bill and Ted fan.
It's definitely a cult series. Like
Yes.
that's the reason it has a cult following. And I mean, and granted, I kind of understand people's distaste for Bogus Journey because that one is weirder and not as good as even the third one, I think. But yeah, it is a bizarre sense of humor, and I think the fact that like when they released in the late '80s and early '90s, growing up in the '90s, like, and because they really, I mean, there are some questionable things kids shouldn't see for sure, but everything's kind of like tongue in cheek, like it's not quite as blatant. So as a kid, I didn't understand that. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of nostalgia factor in there too.
No doubt.
But I mean, I do think
And they
that
play on that.
the third film was solid. I mean, it hits the tone. So many times now, modern sequels to older films are just terrible. Like they don't understand like why people were fans of the originals to begin with. This one, the humor, Ghostbusters for sure. This one really felt just like the other two. Yeah, there was things I had problems with, but for the most part, Bill and Ted were Bill and Ted, and I love that. And that's actually where the problem resided for me, was that I wanted more Bill and Ted.
Right.
And they kept putting the focus on their daughters, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I didn't feel like their daughters were developed well enough to carry their scenes on their own.
The entire film.
Yeah.
Well, and that was kind of my, I don't know, I somewhat settled, I think, in between you two.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know Sean's feelings yet. I'm
It's a
guessing.
mystery.
I'm guessing. But I can't do what I always, did after Jacob for doing. I think I'm kind of in between like 2 and 3, but I don't know if I want to quite give it the 2.5. I think I'm going to edge it and give it 3. And I think the reason why
You don't want to do 2 and 3/4,
No, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I always get on Jacob for doing
you
that.
can't
So
do
I
that.
can't
Yeah,
do that.
yeah.
No, I'm not going to go against my own rules. But I will say the nostalgia factor did play up a part. I think too, it was having seen this movie the same day we saw New Mutants.
Yeah,
And
that
this
helps.
was
a
such
breath
a
of
better
fresh air.
movie.
Yeah.
But which we'll give you our unofficial review, I guess, of New Mutants in a little bit. But I will say that this film did hit on a lot of the same notes from the original movie. And yeah, it did. It captured Bill and Ted fantastically. And I even love some of their dialogue and their banter back and forth. And that was where it fell short for me, is for the complete amount of time that they had to create this film and all of the fans that were backing it and wanted it to be made. I really thought, I do feel like the love was there for the characters. But as far as the story goes, it's as humdrum as it was, and as much as we've seen this story before, I did want more from the back and forth, and I thought I was going to get a little bit more. They were going to be more creative with how they had their dialogue with them, their future selves.
Yeah.
And so that was where it dropped the ball for me. Each instance where they meet themselves in the future got better as the movie went on.
Yeah.
But early on, I just felt like they were squandering and wasting.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Their moments where they ran into themselves, and I was like, that would have been funny back and forth, and you all could have used a lot of different ways. It wasn't until like they're meeting their future old selves that I thought, oh, this is the best kind of banter we've seen.
That
in
and
the
the
movie.
jail scene. I loved the jail scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
That was great.
But Sean, what did you think of it?
I went with 2.5.
Oh wow,
and I'm
okay.
like pretty sturdy on the 2.5. I wasn't
Wavering at all?
No, I really didn't. You mentioned that it's definitely a cult classic, and it's kind of like you have to have a taste for it.
Yes.
I had never actually seen the originals when I was younger.
Okay.
So when I watched all 3 of them back to back, like I watched the third one a different night, but I watched the first 2 back to back, and I couldn't find the taste for it.
Oh, okay. So you were just not into it at all.
I wasn't very interested in the story at all. I felt like I felt like it was two characters that Wayne's World did way better. And
okay.
I kind of related more to those two, even though they came later. I felt like the same kind of character arc for both of them, like the same personalities, same. Wayne's World may have definitely played off of Bill and Ted, certainly, but I felt like they did it better. And the comedy in those movies, I felt, was more spot on and more creative than the comedy that was found in the Bill and Ted movies. I did like the third movie better than the first movie, though.
Yes.
Maybe that was just because after seeing them kind of develop through the first two movies, and the second one was terrible. I didn't like it at all. But the third film, I really felt like they did a good job, being that it's well over 30 years, isn't it? 20.
It's 29 years.
29 years,
yeah.
So
30,
that they were able to pick these characters back up. And I was telling Keith earlier, I really felt like Keanu Reeves didn't pick it up as good as
Alex Winter
did. But I felt like it was still there for him to play John Wick and Neo and a lot of the other roles that he's played that have been kind of dry and monotone and, kind of like a badass.
Yeah.
For him to fall back into this role of just kind of the dumb rocker dude, I thought he did a pretty good job. The music in all the movies is something that sits well with me because I love rock and roll.
Yeah.
There's no other kind of music that I like, and I love that it plays the prominent role in the movie is rock.
Yes.
And in all the movies.
Yeah.
And that, so I'd really enjoyed that. But
I just want to mention the scene with Jimi Hendrix
and
Mozart.
No, for me it was Louis Armstrong.
Oh yeah, Louis Armstrong was my favorite.
Hilarious.
Yes, he was hilarious. He was my favorite. But I was just saying the scene with Jimi Hendrix and Mozart playing together was awesome.
Yeah,
like
I
was
agree.
just like, this is
the
so
music
awesome.
scenes were that was fantastic.
Well, and that's what I think so many people, that's what they captured about this movie that a lot of people will remember about the original was the going back and getting the the historical figures and meeting them. And it's
and
funny.
then death, like because he
Yeah,
was the
Death
most
was in
he was
Bogus
he was the
Journey,
part
yeah.
of Bogus Journey that everybody actually loved. So he was the part they kept.
But the thing is that I did feel like, and I think we kind of talked a little bit about this after you recorded the review, Keith, was that the problem that I had with most of those going back in the past scenes was that, I understood they were trying to hand the torch to their daughters, and so the daughters were the one that took that journey.
Yeah.
But having to split the film up apart, for one, I hated the fact that there just wasn't a lot of character development between the father-daughter relationship.
No.
They focused entirely on them and their wives, which was fine because their wives should be important to them.
But then if you're going to introduce the daughters and then make them a critical part in the plot, I need to see some interaction between the two that create their relationship.
Yes.
And that creates a better handing of the torch. Yeah. And plus, because that's the thing. I mean, from the moment the movie starts and you understand the premise, you kind of
know how it's going to end.
exactly where it's going.
Yeah.
But you're expecting for all the different aspects.
And that was, I think,
film.
the part that irked me most was how it ended.
Yes.
I knew it was going there from the moment they had the scene with Bill and Ted with their daughters in the garage. I was like, this is how it's going to end, and I ended up being right. And it just bugs me, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it bugs me because it just kind of clashes with the themes of the first two movies. It's like it's
the prophecy.
It's like people want to see Bill and Ted. It's they've been waiting almost 30 years to see the third Bill and Ted. It's fine to introduce their daughters. They had kids at the end of the second one, so that makes sense. And it's fine for them to be characters, but at the end of the day, Bill and Ted need to be the focal point and the
I think
heroes
they
of
would
the movie.
argue because of the way it ends, they are.
Yeah,
in the sense that they play with all these other historical greats.
And I get that, but
and I do too. I get how they're skirting it, but I agree. I feel like I would have rather have seen them take the journey together and then passing on something to their daughters than their daughters saying, we got to save our dads, and this is how we're going to do it. And then it's like, it's fine that they pick up on that, but the fact that they kind of go off on their own journey just by thinking what they know what their dads need, I just thought that was a little bit too, I'm like, well, we don't need to split these two characters up and have two different movies.
Story
and I wanted them to have a little bit more of their own, it's fine for them to be young versions of Bill and Ted as their daughters, but I still wanted them to have a little bit more of their own personality.
Some kind of diversity.
Like
they were carbon copies.
Yeah, they
of
were
their-
like
of their
exactly
parents.
Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter only as women, and I'm like, this would be funny if like they had something to distinguish themselves, but as it is, it's like I might as well just watch the original Bill and Ted because they're not giving me anything different like or new to keep me interested in them.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's definitely worth a watch, especially if you're a fan of Bill and Ted.
If I ever like decide to like I'm sure I will one day in the future. I definitely would watch this along with the other two because I mean it does make a nice cap to like all three of them, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where I just like I said, I wish they had tweaked the script a little bit more and not tried like to kind of shoehorn in their daughters in a way that felt so unnatural.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So all across the board, it's positive. It's okay. It's good. It's definitely
it's way better than New
it's
Mutants.
Fun.
Yes.
I mean, production value wise, I thought the movie was great.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
dude, the bodysuits that they're wearing when they're in the prison, I've never seen something look so real.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when
That
they
you
moved,
knew
the
was
veins
fake.
moved and stuff.
Yes.
It's like you
I
know
was
it's
like,
fake,
that's crazy.
but yeah.
It's fake. I mean, it looked amazing.
But it did. Well,
Yeah.
and I thought it was funny too because I mean, even in the parts where I almost could tell you can tell the whole futuristic parts are like on a green screen.
Oh yeah.
But what I loved was, I don't know, they kind of make a tongue-in-cheek joke at that. You know, they're intentionally doing so. They don't expect you to think this is a real set.
And some things, of course,
But-
are like kind of like running gags. From like I told Brandon, I thought it was hilarious that like when they get to the future, like in the second movie, the future looks nothing like the future from the first movie, and then in this movie, it looks nothing like either of those movies.
Yes.
So I was like, I'm okay with that because they've never looked the same in any
Yeah.
movie. It's kind of funny,
Right.
And then of course, I loved Dennis Caleb McCoy. The robot was great. He's like, my name is Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Yes, that ended up being actually a part of the film that I was
Yeah.
not expecting to like. I knew when the robot came in to
Yeah.
annihilate them, like
Well, when
I knew that was like something from the originals
Yeah.
that was just wacky and
Yeah.
funny. But then, the moment he actually becomes more than a robot or a sentient, somewhat being.
Yeah.
Well, that's
thought
what
that
I
was
like because like the
hilarious.
second
Yeah.
one is like evil robot versions of them sent back to stop them. So I'm like, so they're just sending another robot back to stop them. But then he became something different, and I was like, okay, I like this. Now.
Yes.
Like when they're in hell and that demon's like, yeah, that's a robot in hell.
Yeah.
That's weird. And I'm sitting there like, this is so great.
It is.
Yeah.
And there were moments like that definitely made the movie worth watching.
Yeah.
And I mean, overall, it's definitely a good film for those who enjoy Bill and Ted and want to go back to that world. And you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
But for just a casual viewer, I completely understand where Sean's coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
I
no
would-
nostalgia for me
Right.
because I never saw it in its time. So, like I said, if Dana Carvey and Mike Myers could pick up those characters and do Wayne and Garth,
which
like
would
that
be
would
amazing.
set well with
I would,
me.
yeah, I would
like
love
if they
that,
could
yeah.
recapture that the way that Alex Winter and Keanu were able to do
Yes.
with this movie so far.
I believe Dana Carvey
Yeah.
could. I'm not so sure about Mike. He's
Yeah,
hit or miss
he's-
now.
yeah, I
but
don't know what
you
he's
know,
doing.
Honestly, he could, that could be his one like role that he could come back and
If
it
he
would, like,
nailed it, yeah.
Yes, if he nailed it, it would definitely put him ahead of Adam Sandler because we don't know what he's been doing, or we've seen it and it's terrible.
Yeah,
So I
He's
think
producing
he
the
needs
wrong
to do
Missy.
serious
Yeah, the
movies,
wrong
though.
Missy.
Yes.
like Uncut Gems.
Yeah, Adam
Yes.
Sandler's good when he does serious
Yeah.
stuff now.
and lets other people direct them.
Yeah.
You know,
True.
then it's good.
True. Yeah.
And it's like we know Adam Sandler can actually pull off a decent role. And it's just like Mike Myers. Yeah, what was the last thing he did? Like the Love
Gong
Guru?
Show.
The
He
Gong
was the host
Show.
of the
Yeah.
Gong Show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
And he wasn't even
flopped.
himself. Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
he did a character for that.
Yeah,
Are
he
you
was
serious?
Yeah,
yeah, he did like some British.
They never announced that. Like they said, like the host of the show was like some British dude, and
And it
then
was
like,
Mike Myers
and
the
then
whole time.
like people began to realize that's Mike Myers
Yeah.
in prosthetics. It was great because as soon as I saw it, I thought it was Mike
You knew,
Myers.
yeah.
And I was like, "Is that Mike Myers?" And like my mom was like, "No, that's some British dude." And I'm like,
they don't use his name at all.
And then
Yeah.
I Googled it finally, and it was like, yeah, the first couple episodes they didn't admit it, but then
Yeah.
when finally people were like, "That's
Caught
Mike
on.
Myers," they're like, "Yeah."
Honestly, I
it's
didn't
Mike
even know
Myers.
they remade the Gong Show.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
Is it canceled or is it still?
I
on?
don't
I don't
know.
think it's
I don't
on
watch
anymore.
it.
But
When did it even come out?
I know about a year or two ago. Like,
Yeah.
I remember like my mom watching it, but
I
yeah.
just totally missed
Yeah.
that. I do
Yeah.
not remember.
It's probably
them
not on.
advertising
and I know
for
they're
it.
working on Austin Powers. So
Well, they've been working on that for
Yeah,
20 years.
so if
So.
he
See, and by that time, it's probably the next one will come out. By the
See,
time
here's
this
the
one
thing. I
came
would
out,
love
30 years
Austin
later.
Powers 4 if he could recapture it, and that's
Right.
my thing. It's like I don't know, makes
Yep.
me nervous.
But again, I think Mike Myers is like kind of returning to his roots, and I'm okay with that but he can also do serious roles too.
Oh yeah.
Like, he doesn't have to do something comedic, but if he does, it's got to go back to the creative genius that was before he went on to do well, some crap after
Honestly, the
Austin
last
Powers.
good acting I saw him do was in Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, he was actually really good in that.
Inglourious Bastards.
Inglourious
He's good in that too.
Well, I said last.
True.
Bohemian Rhapsody
No,
came
I'm just
after
saying, like,
Inglourious
again,
Bastards.
but I'm just saying, like,
But yeah, he did
serious roles.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we are ready to finally move on to our headlines this week.
That we
Let's
are.
Roll the opening. That's right. It's the top stories on headlines. Woohoo. Okay, so we kind of already talked about our first big breaking news story, obviously at the top of the show there. Sad news. And we want to move on to something that we enjoyed this past week. Yes, it's been so long. It has been oh my gosh, it's been like ever since the beginning of COVID. What was that? It was in March.
The last movie we
Was
saw was in
February?
April.
April?
I'm pretty sure we
It
saw The
was-
Hunt
It
in
went all
April.
the way to April?
Yeah, I think April was the last. You're correct about that. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's verified.
no. I mean,
We've
yeah, the
got it.
COVID
It's
stuff
online.
broke
It's
out
verified.
in March, but they didn't
Fact check.
They didn't shut things down
Wow,
until
okay.
like a month later.
I was way off then because for some reason I thought that
I'm
it
gonna
was.
Google it now.
Google that.
Just
'cause-
look when your ticket stub was purchased. For
Yeah, I
AMC.
see when. Yeah, we all actually went and saw that movie, but that was the last movie you
I'm
all
pretty
saw.
sure that was the last.
The
thing we
Hunt
saw
was
in
the
theaters.
last thing we saw.
Which is funny because it was canceled back
Yeah.
in the fall, and
Yeah.
then they brought
It
back
just
out.
barely made. It's kind of like New Mutants. It was
Yeah.
canceled, pushed back, brought out,
should've
but it
just been
still
canceled.
sucked.
Well, and that's kind of what we want to talk about with our. We are finally back.
Oh no,
In
the
the
Hunt
theater.
was March 15th.
See, I
Oh,
thought
okay.
it was okay. I thought.
And
it was
then we
really
didn't see
a lot
nothing
earlier.
until
So we
August
were wrong.
29th. We were wrong.
They
we were definitely wrong.
We were wrong.
Yeah,
Can you confirm that?
Yeah,
Verify?
we just fact checked.
we were wrong.
Yep.
Yep. Fake news on
CNN
here.
just fact checked.
We just fake news that
Yep.
entire part.
It's so weird to see March 15th and then the very next movie, August 29th.
That's insane.
That is.
And that's what we want to talk about. We finally went back. AMC reopened. Now, granted,
4
I
months
think there were
later.
other theaters that opened before AMC. I don't know if Cinemark around here. I don't know if Cinemark or
I don't
others did
know.
or
Yeah,
Regal.
I really don't.
But
I
I'm pretty sure
I don't think even our small local theater opened up.
Okay. Because the reason why I'm questioning that is because I don't know how it was across the U.S., but here in Kentucky, this was the first weekend
That AMC was open.
The theaters were open,
So we could
and
use
that
our
AMC
Stubbs
was.
membership.
Yes,
Yes.
very
We
important.
had to reactivate them.
That's right.
And it was definitely an interesting experience.
That's kind of what to kind of include our thoughts on New Mutants in with this discussion because obviously we chose not to review that officially this week, and precisely because I think as the experience as a whole, it was good to be back.
Yep.
But there were some things that
sitting
needed
in the
some work
IMAX theater, the
Yeah.
sound, the huge screen, it was all perfect. Even
Not
though the movie
being in
wasn't.
my living room was a joy.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we got there, and I mean, we got there a little early, but not super
Whoa,
early.
don't even start with getting there. Start with trying to buy our tickets, for Christ's sake.
Oh,
That's
yes.
true. That's
Yeah.
true.
We couldn't even get. We tried for 3 days to purchase tickets through the app.
Now this
and
was after they officially announced
they-
that
Yes.
we're opening on.
we reactivated
It
our
seems
accounts.
like
everything was working.
They were having issues with the
Yeah.
app, like getting it set up because they want to when you buy your tickets, they close off seats around you to keep the social distancing.
Yes.
But that wasn't integrated or something, and it wouldn't let us. Every
not-
time we chose a seat, it was like, "Oops, there's something
Yeah,
wrong."
would not let us purchase tickets at all.
No.
And so about 3 days after trying, we finally were able to get the tickets purchased. But
And I think
I
even
just
during
think even
those-
from the beginning that
Those
was a bad
3
experience.
days, we tried.
Oh, I tried
each
almost every
day.
2 or 3 hours.
Well,
And
the
it was
first day
like-
they didn't even have any IMAX showings, and then finally, the next day they added IMAX
yeah, they
showings.
just popped up on there.
And then the day after that, I think is when Sean finally managed to actually get
to
the
actually
tickets.
get
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
But it was like you said, that experience alone.
Yep, it was off to a bad start.
Yeah,
And
but
then,
before we even get into the theater, though, we're driving through the parking lot that
Oh
has,
my God.
has cones sitting in the potholes.
yeah, like a foot down in the potholes. All you can see is the top of the cone sticking
And here's
out.
the thing: AMC Stony Brook is in actually a very nice part of Louisville.
Yes.
So there's no reason for it to be this run down. I know they've been shut down for 4 months.
Yep.
Well, and
But they
I was
also knew
afraid.
when they were going to reopen.
Yes,
So they could have
they've
taken
had-
care
There's
of that.
weeds growing up the
Everybody
sidewalks.
Everybody
Oh, yeah.
has been planning these reopenings and we've seen it. We've seen signs posted. They've got banners.
Yeah.
You know, they're all of this whole entire time that they've been shut down.
Yeah.
And most businesses.
What did you all notice that the movie posters were from before the
Yeah, yeah.
COVID?
I did not know
All
They
the
were
movie
all old.
posters on the outside of the building were
Were
all
old?
old.
Yeah,
Oh my
they're all old.
God.
Well, they probably don't have
terrible.
any new ones. I'm sure the production companies, because they don't really know when they're going to release
Right.
movies, haven't shipped out any
True.
new ones.
No, that's true.
But
I
still,
can't
it
put
was
the
just-
onus on them on that.
Yeah.
But I did. They had movie posters of their own.
Yeah.
Talking about the face mask rule.
My thing is driving into the parking lot and walking into the theater and knowing that it's in a very nice part of Louisville, but seeing it look like Dixie Dozen before it shut down.
Dirty Dozen.
The
I'm
Dirty
like, come on,
Dozen.
guys. It's like, Dixie Dozen was bad enough, but it wasn't also in the best of locations. It's like there's no reason you should look like they did.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the thing. I pulled up and I saw like weeds growing out of the IMAX
Yeah, you
store. where
texted us before.
I was just like, guys, I was like,
This place looks like shit.
yeah, I was just like, what in the world? I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, you've had this entire time off, and
Yeah.
you all have talked like we've had many discussions on this show.
Oh,
about
they talked about how
AMC.
there's going to be a grand reopening.
Well, and not only that, but we've talked
Not in
about
Louisville.
where there's been money problems and there's been issues with finances.
Oh, no, they said they don't have any
Exactly.
finance
Yeah.
issues.
And they finally came out and were like, no, we're gonna put that to rest. We're in good shape. And it's like, well, you obviously didn't have enough to get a lawn
That's
care
it.
service.
They have so much money that they're not paying for lawn care, and they're also not paying to have employees. Because
That's
when
what
we
I
got
was
in,
gonna say.
that
Let's,
was the big
let's
thing.
work our
Yeah.
way in order here through the whole
Yes.
experience. So once we got out of the parking lot and into the building, then what did we experience?
Well, then we thought, okay, let's go to our normal A-list line because, hey,
Well,
you're
here's
supposed to
the
pay
thing.
for that convenience.
the
right?
theaters can only hold 40% capacity right now. There really was not a lot of people
No.
there.
No.
But it was still way too many for the amount of workers they had.
What do you say, like 12, 15 cars in the parking lot?
Oh yeah,
At the
Yeah,
most?
That
at
was
the
at
most.
Yeah.
15 cars in the parking lot, and we still stood in line for like 30 minutes.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that
Oh,
was
yeah. I mean, we were there at
Right at
3
showtime.
or right
A
well
little bit
at
before
3,
3.
But there's 25 minutes of previews always, and we got in there.
we missed like all the previews.
Right.
I think we caught
We
the
saw
tail
Tenet.
end of the last
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that we've already seen. And-
But
Yeah.
no, yeah, we got into the A-list line first, and then actually you two did, and I saw what was going on, and it's like, nope, and I just went right.
Nope.
Because
Annexed the
There's been
A-list
so
line.
many times when I've stood in that A-list line, and it
They
took me
never
long,
serve
and
you.
it took
Yeah.
me longer because you're supposed to get served first in the A-list line. But
Right.
what they
Yeah.
do is, if they only have one person on the register, like they did that day,
Yeah.
take
they
turns.
do like every other, and I'm like, it's going to take just as long whether
Yeah.
I'm in the real line or not.
Well,
so,
and they kind of set it up that way.
Yeah.
Like the amount of employees that they had, they
Two.
literally had two.
Well,
They had-
no,
there
3.
were
They had a
three.
ticket taker.
The
Yeah.
ticket taker was that's all he was doing, just standing behind his little booth and his
Plexiglass.
Scan-
plexiglass
not even
screen.
taking real tickets; they were scanning
No.
your phones.
And you
because-
literally walk around him and to go into the theater. And
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know why they don't have plexiglass on this
It's like,
side.
I will walk
Wait
up
till
and
you
be
get
like, "Hey,
around
bro."
him to sneeze. and then do it.
Yeah, but then it was like, so he's sitting over there. He's not allowed to come over and help the people
Yeah.
behind the counter.
Yeah, somebody has to take the tickets.
Exactly. So then there's literally one person who I guess is
The
dropping-
managers looked like was running the
It was the
register.
manager, but then there was also the woman at the other end who's cooking the food
Yeah.
that people are ordering. Like if you want some pretzel knots or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the manager's sitting there, and you can tell he's worn out because
He's
and
stressed already.
He's
yeah.
he's
Yeah.
already stressed. And I'm kind of pissed because I'm glad we got in the line we did, but I also am just sitting here and I'm like, even if you're gonna have a reduced staff, people pay you for the convenience of having that express lane.
Well, that's
for a
part of your
reason.
Stubbs membership is you're supposed to be able to use the express lane and
Right.
get through the line faster.
So the fact that you have people who are standing in that line, granted, yeah, he was basically going back and forth between the regular line and that line.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, then that's no more convenient.
no.
And my issue there is like you at least should have one other person staffed. Now, whether they don't have enough people, they're all furloughed, or whether he just didn't staff anybody that night.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
Because he's probably thinking, oh, it's 3 p.m. on
I don't
Saturday.
think it was a them
Nobody's
thing.
gonna be
I think
there.
it was one of the AMC things where like, listen, we're going to have it's going to be slow starting back out, so
Skeleton
so
crew.
don't schedule
Yeah.
a bunch of people because we don't want to waste the labor, even
Yeah.
though they're doing fine financially.
Right.
Because you could tell I saw the look on his face. I could tell like he was pissed. And
Oh, yeah.
You could
and
tell
it's-
that was
so,
from
and-
AMC.
And it's like if he wouldn't be ticked if he would made the schedule himself.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the
that's
poor
what I'm
guy
gonna-
was having to ring you up. Then and get your popcorn, get your ticket. Then he was having to go take his gloves off, wash his hands, put another pair of gloves on, and come back and do it for the next person.
Yeah.
So that makes your time in line even longer when he has to
man.
do that process every time.
I think for every single person, it was at least, I would say, a good 3 to 4 minute wait.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about people who are already there for their showtime.
Yep.
Like I said, we got there thankfully when there weren't a lot of people in line. If I looked behind me by the time I was walking out of the line,
a lot of people showed up
there
after
were
we had already got there.
a crap ton. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you would think that even if you didn't staff someone early when you're first opening, you'd have people there as the
You'd have people for the
showtimes-
matinee because
Yeah.
more people show up for the later evening showings than they do the early ones. Yeah.
And then not only that, but it was because he was having to, which fine if they've got all these COVID practices in
Right.
place,
Yep.
and he's got to remove his gloves and wash his hands. But it's like, again, you have to account for that extra amount of time that's now wasted, and there's people who want to see their movies.
Yep.
And not to mention that there was somebody who was in the A-list line who came through and they said they ordered ahead and he showed him his ID and the guy said, I'm sorry, you got to take that over there to her. She's the one that deals with online orders.
The mobile orders, yeah.
And I'm just sitting here and I'm like, okay, for one, I could tell he was tired, but I'm like, dude, you're the manager.
Yeah.
Clearly, you should take care of this guy and let alone take care of him. Like, I don't care if you're worn out. You got to have better customer service.
yeah.
And this is that guy who's paying for your premium service.
Yeah, I did tell the guy when I got my nachos and stuff, I told him, like, I was like, you're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And he was
He's
like,
like,
I'm
"I'm
trying.
trying
He
to."
goes, I'm trying the best I can. I was like,
Yep.
I know you are, and you're doing a good job for what you got.
Yep.
And because I was just like, everybody's frustrated, and maybe if I, give him a little boost, which I don't know if it worked or not, but I'm just kind of like,
He kind of reminds
trying to
have
be
you-
nice
you
to
know
the
the
guy.
movie
but-
The Way Back?
Yeah.
yeah.
And the guy that's in the booth, I cannot remember his name. He's the real lanky, skinny guy, and he's just like, they're like, hey, what kind of job do you want? And he was like, a storm chaser. They're like, a storm chaser? He's like, yeah, there's a storm. I'm gonna go catch it. Got it. Okay, that's what it is. and the way he describes it in like the laziest way,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can tell he hates his job.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to be there, and it's hilarious. And that's what I felt like with that
Yeah.
guy.
Then you get, if you ordered popcorn, they gave you little cups,
Of
like
butter.
like the thing you get your ranch dressing in with a lid.
Oh, that was
Of
another
butter.
issue.
Yeah, here's what I didn't understand about that. Because coming from having worked at a restaurant, especially during the COVID thing, like for a while we had our Coke machines shut down. We didn't restaurants didn't want people getting their own Cokes because they would reuse the same cup and their lips would be on it, so it could spread COVID. So and then when they finally did reopen the drink machines, they put a sign up, please ask for a new cup for every refill or whatever. Now AMC had their Coke machine fully open. You could go get your drink. You could go get a refill.
It did say no refills.
It did say no refills.
It said
yeah.
no refills.
But the butter dispenser wasn't open, and I was like, "What's the difference? If
Yeah.
I'm getting my own drink, what's the difference in me?"
Yeah, if I'm-
And granted, this isn't the Coke machine where you push your cup up there and it gets you. You have to push the
actual-
the touch
you have to
screen.
select.
It's the freestyle
Yeah.
machine, so you actually have to put your hands on the glass and touch the screen.
So everybody who's
everybody's
getting
getting a Coke
doing
is
that.
touching after
So
someone
yeah,
else.
why in the world wouldn't you have the butter dispenser open? Because that's the other issue is that every single time somebody would want butter for popcorn, he literally would have to walk all the way in the back,
grab the butter.
and get butter. Which
Yep.
here's the other thing:
Why didn't you have it out on the counter?
why didn't you have it out on
Yep.
the
Yeah,
counter?
already
And I don't
made
know
up.
what the hell's
Yep.
going on back there.
I didn't ask for it in
Safe
line.
to me.
When
I
I
don't
got
know.
around to the Coke machine, the lady who was doing all the food and stuff, I asked her so she wouldn't so I didn't have to stop him, and she went and got it, and she walked all the way from that side all the way around and came all the way back with it, and I'm like, why would you not have that
I
with
don't
the
understand
popcorn?
why not just have a butter machine back there
Yes.
and let an employee only
Yes.
touch the butter machine and say, you want butter? Okay,
Yep.
here you go. Is that enough?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Here you go.
Yes,
Like,
agreed.
there's nothing wrong with that.
And
That's
even,
the way they
even
used
if
to do
even
it.
if they want to put it in a cup because they want you to spread
Well,
it,
and that's
I'm
Yeah.
like, fine, but
The
put
first-
the cup there with the dispenser and just do it.
And that's the thing. The first guy we got there, because I have a friend that does the same thing. Like when she she'll have them fill the bag partially up, put butter on it, fill the
Yeah.
bag the rest of the way up, put butter on it, fill it up to the top, then put butter on it because she likes butter throughout
To
the whole
get
thing.
all the way, yeah.
We had a guy doing that, but he was doing it with the cups, so that took even longer because he
Yeah.
had to stand in line. The guy cashing
Yeah.
people out had to
That made
fill the
me
bag
mad, too.
slightly while this dude took his butter cup,
I'm
poured
like,
it in,
be
filled
considerate
it
of
up
the other
more.
people that are waiting in
And it's
line.
like, I know
and
you
move
want
your butt
butter,
along.
but
Yep. Agreed.
Do what
Like
my
that-
nephew does. My nephew takes straws and pokes them throughout, and then pours the butter down the straws so it goes throughout the
That's
bag.
smart.
Like,
That's crazy.
hundreds-
That's
smart.
man. That's
Wow.
a smart one.
Yeah.
He's just and then he just slowly like takes the
Straws
and then
out,
Boom.
yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good one, Hunter.
Don't waste nobody's time.
Well, and that becomes an inconvenience for everybody else, and it's like, and I understand there are some people who are waiting in line, and they're like, no, I'm gonna get what I want, what I came for, because I waited in line.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with like, look, if you're gonna sit here and talk about how you do not have any of these complications with finances and you have enough people, why are you having this grand reopening and welcoming people back?
Yep.
And not only that,
But
but
do they have anybody to clean the theaters? I just thought about that.
Well,
I
that's
was gonna
what was
say
the
that was
next
gonna be my
part
next
was-
thing.
Because I didn't
is
see
how
anybody.
dirty it
I only
was.
saw them three, and I didn't see anybody else. So who was cleaning the
Well,
damn theater?
first of all, you walk down the hallway, and it's like walking through the halls in The Shining. Like, I mean, it's like there's death at the end of this hallway.
Yep.
popcorn
To get to
littered
the
all over the
yes,
floor.
it looks terrible, and it's just like
It
it's bare. There's
literally-
nobody there. Like,
It
it's very
looks
scary.
like they locked the doors in March and they have not opened
Opened
it up
them
till
since.
now.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah,
just
for a
left.
grand reopening, there's no signs anywhere that say "Welcome back"
well,
or
there's
"Grand
one
reopening."
on the very corner on the outside of the building.
that
was it.
banner,
Yeah,
that
banner.
little flag that
Yeah,
they just
that
stuck
was
there.
it.
That was
Yeah,
it.
That was it.
Then we get in the theater and sit down, and there's freaking snot tissues in the cup holder
Yes.
that we're sitting in.
I'm sitting there. Here they are talking about how they're making sure they're taking all these precautions for COVID,
Yeah.
and they're doing
Yes.
social distancing so people aren't sitting right next to each other. As soon as I sit down, there's like this used napkin in my cup holder. I was like, well, there's COVID right there. Like
That
this
ain't butter.
Yeah.
It's like this isn't clean. I was like, this is gross.
That's freaking goober on that.
We're
That
gonna
ain't
make sure
butter.
no one gets COVID going back to the theater unless someone blows their nose and leaves it in the cup holder.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it
was
was
disgusting.
And then the next thing happened.
What's that?
The movie started.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was by far. Look, here's the thing: the visuals and the sound, as you already talked about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
were They were IMAX.
Yeah.
And I will say,
Their projector still works.
exactly.
It
And I was
was-
worried. I was worried about that.
It was the final X-Men movie produced by Fox Studios before Disney bought them out. And that, I think, should just speak for itself, knowing Fox's reputation with the X-Men
and
movies.
here's
Even
the
though
thing-
it said what is it? 21st Century Studios.
Yeah,
Is that what
Yes.
it is
Well,
now?
Yeah.
because it's been released under Disney,
Right.
they have the 20th Century
well, and the one
Studio.
that everybody can
Yeah.
laugh at was in association with
With
Marvel.
Marvel.
So it's
it
not
was
Marvel.
not. It was not a Marvel Studios film.
No.
Right.
It started in association with Marvel.
But it was funny because I think we all kind of went in knowing, like, we were more looking forward to the experience. And I'll be honest with you,
I was curious
had
about the movie.
experience
Honestly,
been much better all throughout, I do think I would have at least I would have had a better feeling coming out of the theater. But having all of that and then watching a bad movie, I was like, all right, I'm really looking forward to Tenet now.
Yeah.
And it's a completely forgotten movie. It's garbage. You
Yeah.
already knew when they mentioned X-Men. That's the only clue or hint they give you throughout. That's even about how this is connected. And you already know that this is not going to continue on to be anything else because of the debacle it was to even have it in production, and then the horrible release schedule.
well, I mean,
getting
now that
pushed
Disney
back.
has those rights, they're gonna fold X-Men into the MCU. So everything that
Yeah.
came before with X-Men's done. Like they're
Yeah.
not going to
Yeah.
pick that.
Exactly.
Like why would they? A franchise that
let
was
it
so
lie.
rocky.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna
reboot it with which they should.
different
That's,
actors,
I mean,
yeah.
that's what they definitely should do. This movie just felt like it was so out of place.
Yes.
Like I didn't feel like this movie even had. I know you said these are comic book characters that you've read about. I have not.
Same
so
here.
I didn't know who Mirage was or whatever her name was in the movie because
Didn't
it
either.
wasn't Mirage. but
Moonstone or whatever,
Moonstar or
Yeah.
Moonstone or
her
whatever.
Indian
But
name. Yeah,
it was just a very out of place and out of touch film. I didn't feel like it could decide what kind of movie it wanted to be. They touted it as this like superhero horror kind of movie,
Yeah.
and it felt like it was supposed to be a horror movie. But if they had never mentioned X-Men in the movie, which they only mentioned one time,
Yeah.
if they had never said X-Men, I could have went in and watched this and never known that it had anything to do with that world at all.
No,
Because there's
same.
been other movies about
the-
kids with mutant powers.
The only other
So-
like clue was the Essex Corporation,
Right.
which is Mr.
Yeah.
Sinister, because like Fox tried to tease at him for like the last 3 or 4 X-Men movies, but of course that's
Yeah.
never
Never
going
happened.
not
That's
going to
like-
happen with Fox anyways.
Yeah.
Marvel
Thank
could
God,
always,
though,
but
after seeing this debacle.
yeah, but it was just it was not a good movie.
Well, and it was just the littlest things. I mean, for as long as this has been in production hell, and then you see the stupidest, littlest, simplest, like,
The dialogue
was terrible.
bad.
The computer screen and like the
Looked like
graphics.
something out of a video game.
It's just like
I thought I was playing Fallout.
Yeah.
And that was my little thing that's on your wrist, the
yes,
little computer
and
that's
hell,
on there.
even that in that
It's like,
game
what is
looks
this?
way more professional
Oh,
than
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It looks more realistic, and just little stupid things like email received, loading, and I'm like, this is the
Yeah.
longest freaking email
Night mode.
that's ever loaded.
Night mode.
Night mode. Yeah,
That was
Night
amazing.
mode.
I mean, I'm just sitting here and I'm like, I understand what you're trying to show, but this
Yeah.
is way too long and way too drawn
That
out.
they tried to like unify these characters with like their traumas, and it's like they all like
Well, they unified them by making them scissor each other.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they didn't not literally, but
they all had issues
yeah, they're-
because they all murdered people. Like, and that's kind of a spoiler, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just like it's
like
like
the whole
but I mean,
lesbian
it
love
was, it's
thing
like- it's
going
like-
on, and I'm
it's
just like,
like
what the hell?
I murdered my dad. It's like I
Yeah.
murdered
I
my
murdered 18
girlfriend.
people.
I murdered 18 people. I murdered my whole village. It's like
Yeah.
And it was like the moment, the
Yeah.
moment they start going
I
down
murdered
that,
the priest.
yeah, well, and they start showing like every individual you meet, and it's like, well, let's hear their backstory.
Yeah.
Their
Like, and then
backstory's
they go
always
into-
I accidentally murdered somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like
It's like you do belong in that place.
Yeah.
It's like I feel sorry for
it's
you
like
that
I
you're
get
there.
it. You got powers. You didn't know how to use them. They backfired, and someone accidentally died. You need therapy. That's fine. But
And
it
it
was
literally is all they did was just copy and paste that same
Yeah.
part throughout
Yeah.
the script.
Yeah.
they all
That's
needed
all they did.
therapy, but they weren't really getting therapy. They were being used
Yes.
to make an army.
And thus
because that's
comes
not
the big
unoriginal either.
twist. And look, it's predictable. It's boring.
Yep.
The character acting is it wasn't even good.
They
Like, I
they don't even remember they have powers half the time. That kept bugging me.
Yeah,
I
not
just-
until the
I
very
told
end of the
Sean, it's
movie.
like I understand
Yeah.
like these things are attacking them and they're scared. So maybe initially they don't think I could use my powers because they were
Well,
scared.
okay,
But it still took way like, fight or flight. Your defensive reaction, I would think, would be
Use your powers.
it's like you
what you
Yeah.
have.
it's like
Yeah.
you accidentally murdered everybody because you didn't know how to control your powers. But now when you're being attacked, you don't react with I'm going to blast it. Like that made no,
Yeah.
like that makes no sense.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's funny because it kind of brings up another issue that draws back to even Bill and Ted. Because I noticed too that in Bill and Ted, there's a part where they go see them future selves, and then like the future Bill and Ted, they point a gun at themselves, and I'm just sitting here and I'm like, wait, wouldn't if they shot themselves
Right.
in the
Yeah.
past, they'd kill themselves?
Yeah.
And then they make that plot point
Later on.
later
Yeah.
on in the movie,
Right.
and I'm like, if the viewer and the audience is figuring out the road you're going to take before you get there, and they've already got it figured out, that just proves to you that you need to be a little bit more
Creative
with your writing,
with
yeah.
your writing. And so I'm just like, when you see intelligently written things that don't treat you like you're stupid and you need to be spoon-fed, those are the types of movies that I enjoy. I mean, that's what we're about to go see with Tenet.
Yeah.
Tenet is going to be a
You
movie
hope.
where I know I'm going to have to intellectually
Yep.
be
It's a mind-bending movie. Yeah.
and I'm ready for it. That's what I love Nolan for. Is he doesn't treat you like you're stupid. I'm just New Mutants is
One.
I would
1
say
out of 4.
one.
Yeah,
I'd give it 1. It's not even entertaining.
Yep.
It's not worth it.
I'll never watch it again.
Anna Taylor-Joy is worth seeing.
Yeah,
That's about it.
Anya
Her in the
Taylor-Joy.
pool, yeah.
That's true.
That was nice.
That's it. All right, guys. I think we're ready to move on. Finally, to our unique weekly segment.
Huh.
Let's get to it.
Multimedia.
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 I like it.
That's right. I have heard.
So
Bird is
what-
the word.
What is this week's segment?
What'd it
Sean,
be?
Do
What'd
you
it do?
know? Do you remember?
Be
I
it
remember,
once.
but I want you to say it.
Yeah.
All right. I can remember it this time. I'm not going to change it up on you.
Usually, if
I
me-
usually forget and then I just
Yeah.
make it up.
I would say, or if me and Sean announce it, it's not the same as what you had put down.
Put
so.
on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's true.
Lower
So,
third.
so in okay. So the correct word. I'll just pull it up right now and read right off the screen. Does binging change your viewing habits?
Does it? Doesn't it?
I still screwed it up.
Yeah, you did. That's
yeah.
okay.
Does
Does
it?
Good
does
question.
binging change?
Your viewing habits?
Okay. Yeah, it can.
Does it make
We
viewing
solved that.
And then
different?
I always love going to Keith first because that's what he does. He just answers the question.
Yeah.
No explanation. Just yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually, I was talking to Brandon about this because I was thinking, like, I started a new job and I work like it's a daytime job, like Monday through Friday. Great, love it. I also have kept my older job just to make some extra money. and I work it about 2 nights during the week, and then like so far it's just been Sunday morning. But because like of like the limited time I have now, because of that, like there's been like nights where I'm like I want to watch something, but I know like I need to go to bed, so I'm like I only have like maybe an hour, and I'm like, well, crap, I can only like watch one episode. It's like I don't want to watch just one episode. And then I was thinking about that today, and I was like, well, what's wrong with that? That's all you ever used to watch was like one episode. I'm like,
it used to be the
it's
norm.
like
Yeah.
we're so spoiled now. And granted, I haven't watched as many movies like since I hadn't been working. Like I'd mostly been watching shows and just been used to binging them. So now it's like I'm so used to binging that I've kind of actually gone back to watching movies because I can watch a movie within that time frame.
Right.
Whereas I can only watch 1 or 2 episodes of something, and that's not enough. So I'm just like, it should be okay. I could just watch one episode one night, and I'll watch another episode the next night. I don't have to watch an entire season of something in one day because I've done that with like The
Boys.
Boys.
It used to just
and
be
Stranger
you only got to
Things.
see one episode a week.
Yeah,
And now we
You had
can
to
at
wait
least
weekly.
watch. Yeah, you can at least watch one a night and get through a season.
and that's still
in 2
better.
weeks.
But my stubborn butt was like, I really want to start Umbrella Academy. I haven't seen it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to start it and only watch the first episode.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
haven't started it.
because the first episode is the hook.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one that's going to hook you,
Yep.
and you're going to be up till 3 a.m.
Well,
watching them.
that's my issue, and that's where it changes my habits. Is I'm the opposite, where I know I shouldn't watch an episode because I know it'll keep me up, and I'll continue to keep press and play.
Well, that's kind of why I
And-
won't watch just the one because I know myself and I know
Yes.
it's like it's not that like I want to watch more than one. It's that if I watch that one and I
You're
get
gonna have
hooked,
to keep it going.
I'm not going to go to bed,
But
and that's going to be bad.
And I'll end up watching like 3 or 4 episodes of something until it finally levels off to where it is kind of like a plateau episode, where it's like, okay, this is a good in between. This is a good place to stop.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I've even gotten it into the point of some of those more drawn out drama shows, like on Netflix originals or whatnot. I don't watch
those.
Well, I won't watch the hour long until, I'll watch something that's a half hour because I know I can watch more of those episodes
Yeah.
in a shorter amount of time or in the same amount of time. And that's a problem because it's like I'll sometimes be wanting to watch one of those, but it deters me from
Yeah.
watching some of these greatly reviewed shows just because they are an hour-long format. And I'm like, if I watch 2 of those, then that's 2 hours. I could have watched a whole feature-length movie. Yeah, I guess I'll just watch Office. And then that's what
Yeah.
happens. And so I end up turning back on like a half hour long or Parks and Rec or something.
I started watching Batman the animated series because they're like
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're
Wow,
22
yeah.
because they're 22 minutes
22.
long, so I could watch like
They're
3.
super quick.
I can
Yeah.
watch 3 of them in an hour.
Well, like so is Scrubs. Scrubs
Yeah.
is 21 or
Yes.
22
Yeah.
minutes.
And I've started watching that, and,
Yeah.
and it's been perfect because I'll sit down and I can actually play back maybe 3 or 4 of those, and I'm like, okay, I've had my fill, and I feel like I got a pretty good dent in the show, and I'm okay with that.
See, the problem with me watching Batman the animated series though is that it's good. I mean, it's definitely still it's a little dated because of what it was made for kids, but it's still like for its time it was still very mature and it is still good. But it's one of those things where it's like I know like it's not going anywhere. It's a serialized like every episode.
Yeah.
Like I mean they
Yes.
have 2-part episodes.
See,
and
that
stuff.
was my problem with
And-
Smallville.
Yeah.
And I know it got better than that, and you were just like, no, it's more than just being serialized like that. But the whole first
Oh,
season
like the first 2 seasons are
is
nothing but
literally
like,
like
serial-
every
yeah.
single episode he fights a new bad
Yeah.
guy.
yeah,
and I was
that's
just like,
the old Superman cartoons.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
just there
Yeah.
was no continuity.
And that was one of those things where it's like I watch it, but I'm like, I want to watch something else because like it's not like, it's fun to revisit it because it's something from my childhood, but it's not something like I want to just sit and watch because like I know like it's like he's just gonna solve this crime or take down this villain, and that's the episode.
Yeah, pretty much. What about you, Sean? Does it change your viewing habits?
It has. After being off work for a while and then going back to work, I got used to the same thing Keith is talking about. I got used to being able to watch. I watched The Witcher in a night and a half. Like, I mean, I just binged all of that
Yeah.
when it came out. But there's so many different series that I'm watching right now that I guess because there's not one that I'm focused on, it's nothing. It's not really that weird for me and Amelia to watch one episode of this tonight, and then we'll watch an episode of this the next night. So we kind of cycle through, some of the things that we're watching right now. So it's not that big of a deal. But usually once she goes to bed, I'm up until about 12. So I have about 2 hours to watch something else that she's not going to like, or to watch a movie. And I usually end up watching a film just because there's so many of them that we receive in the
True.
mail through screeners.
Yeah,
that
that's right.
we got all these movies to watch. So it hasn't really changed a lot for me because we've already kind of been used to that format of just me and her watch 1 or 2 episodes of something every night. And then, but it kind of brings up something. I know it was one of the headlines that we didn't mention about Netflix potentially offering some free stuff. And I almost think that the whole binge thing may end up playing into that because if they offer, let's say, here's what
Stranger
Peacock,
Things is one
here's
of those
what Peacock has done.
Yeah.
They give it to you for free, but you can only watch the first episode of a series.
Yeah.
We got on there. I've been dying to watch Yellowstone. I've heard so much great stuff about Yellowstone. It was all true. It's absolutely phenomenal show.
Okay.
But I signed up for Peacock to watch Yellowstone, and I got to watch the first episode, and then you're cut off. So it's kind of like they can offer these free original movies or free original shows, but I have a feeling it's going to be like Peacock where they know people want to binge the shows.
Yeah.
So they're going to offer you the first episode for free and then hook you into their service
That way you
so
can
that you
pay
can watch
for
the
it, yeah.
rest.
Yeah.
That's just what I see coming with that. Because binging is something that so many people, especially during the COVID, that is the thing to do is to sit down a night and watch 3 or 4 or 5 even episodes. Like once I start watching Black Mirror, I can't stop watching them. Like I mean, I'll watch
That's
5.
one. I mean,
I can't quit.
There's so many
So-
that there's just so much content out there
Yes.
too that it's hard to kind of consume it all. So you do get into like a binge mode once you find something that you want to watch.
Something that's really like there's not like it's funny. I've done it plenty of times, but like most series, I don't like watch like a whole season in one day. But there are a few that I definitely have, and like The Boys was one that like
that comes out
like,
Friday, right?
Yes.
And this
see, that's gonna
weekend I'll be watching the piss out of that.
And that's what I'm saying. Like that's gonna be another problem because like one of my off days, I know I'm gonna spend like the whole day watching that entire season.
See, and that's no, I have the same thing. It's like I'm trying to think. I actually
It's
like
easier
some of the
now though
docuseries
when
that
seasons
are,
are
like
only like 6 or 8 episodes long
Yes.
now. It's
Yeah.
like granted like that's like a whole work day, but
Yes.
it's like you know what?
No, but
not?
it is. It's like that actually is more appealing to me.
Yeah.
I would much rather because it's approachable. It's like 12 episodes of a huge 1 hour show is 12 hours I've got to commit. 6 or 8, it just seems like that's
Well,
much
you remember
more.
when they used to be 22 episodes?
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
Lost was that way. And we
Freaking
saw-
X-Files.
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 Was 24 episodes.
Yeah.
A season.
And here's
yeah.
the thing, and it was incredible. I mean, X-Files did have some overarching stuff. It was much more serialized than Lost.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will say, like, in Lost for its first couple seasons was fantastic that
Yeah.
way. But we saw what happened when it drug on for too long, and you had the writers who struck, and it was like, well, crap. You know, it ends up hurting the product, and it ends up being like a detriment to why people would even tune in. And so I agree. I think when I see these 6 or 8 episode, 1 hour seasons, I'm like, hell yeah. I'm all
we have
about
a question
Yeah,
actually
I
that
saw
goes right
that.
along with
Oh,
this.
yeah, go ahead.
Neil asked, "How do you all decide what to watch next?"
Oh gosh, that's
I
tough.
rely on social media. I'm not gonna lie. Like I
What's
mean, word of
popular?
mouth, what people are saying. Like I have a lot of my friends on Facebook will say like, just finished the final
it's
episode
great.
of this. It was I can't believe what happened, and then I see that and I'm like, I've heard that show's not too bad.
See, I'm
so
kind of
I try to watch it.
opposite. Social media usually dictates what I don't like. When I see people start, when they start
Right.
like that's why I wouldn't watch Tiger
Bird
King
Box.
for the longest time.
But you're glad you did.
Yeah, I was saying that was definitely
I'm
worth
not.
that was
I'm not
entertaining as hell.
entirely sure. I'm glad I watched.
Oh.
I mean, it was but it was It's one of those things where like some people will overhype things, and I'm like, I don't want to watch that. And then
See, and that's
That
it's-
happens.
I
from
didn't
time to
watch.
time,
I didn't watch
but-
Game of Thrones until like it was in like its 6th season because like it was so overhyped that I was like, I don't want to watch that.
No, I do agree. I mean, Bird Box. That's why.
Oh,
Well, okay,
yeah.
but
that
that was like a
one-
social media outcry,
Yeah.
and so much of it
Here's
was
the difference.
surrounding the
Game of Thrones
hype
was
of it.
overhyped, but it was actually it lived
up.
up to
It
its
delivered?
hype
till season 8.
until last season. Bird Box never lived up to its hype.
Well, no, but that's my thing, and that's the problem with social media. But I commend Sean for taking a chance because we
Yeah,
Oh,
he
I-
does.
we've
That's
talked
one
about
thing.
this a lot.
I will take a chance on a show.
Yeah.
I will give any show
3
at
episodes.
least 3 episodes.
See, but even when it comes to movies, I know there's times where you've watched movies that I will never pick up, and it's like I'll check it out, and very rarely do I watch them.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where there are hidden gems.
Some of them are hidden gems.
that I'll watch, and I'll be like,
I
man,
told
that was
Keith,
a totally underrated
An American
movie.
Pickle, hidden gem,
Yeah.
fantastic movie.
Okay, on
And
Amazon. No,
it's
that's
an
HBO
HBO
Max.
movie.
Neil said there's
It's on
so
Plex.
much content it's hard to decide decide on something. He said like they finished Breaking Bad and then they went on to West.
Oh, we got to talk about that.
But then
deal.
they went on to West Wing because of its reputation.
Actually,
he said he got 5 episodes in and he said he gave up. He
and
said he went.
I'm not okay. And here's the thing:
Yeah.
West Wing is one of those episodes where it's
I
an
wouldn't
hour
watch
long.
West Wing.
I started watching it because I don't mind the political dramas. House of Cards.
House of Cards is
a
good,
much better
yes,
political drama.
I agree.
It definitely does not end well. The
Yeah.
last season's not great, but that show is fantastic.
The way I
for a
kind
political
of
drama.
pick what I watch is kind of based on like my own interest, anyways. Like if there's something
Yes.
that like that I know like fantasy series or science fiction, something in the vein that I already know I like, and then I kind of like look up like what it's about, and then I kind of see like word of mouth if it's good or not.
See, and that's
so it's
where
kind of like multiple factors
I was
where
gonna
it's
say,
like
it never is one decisive factor. But I will say, like when it comes to social media, it's got to be a lot of people saying like there's a lot of word of mouth going around that it's good, and it's got to be in something that I would never try for me to actually say, okay, I'll give that one a try.
Yeah.
Whereas typically, if it's something that I know I'm very picky about, then I will be like very docuseries.
I was gonna say-
I'm very picky. Like I do like watching docuseries, but like I love the Netflix original. Oh gosh,
cuties.
no, it's
No,
that's a new docuseries coming out.
it's not a docuseries.
It's a movie,
It's
yeah.
a movie. Remember?
That's a new docuseries coming out. Wink, wink.
Oh.
Okay. No, but I do say that. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of it. Daggone it, Last Chance U.
Okay.
yeah.
I love
Yeah.
I love that because it's just raw and it's just like
Yep.
cover. But it's a good show, and I'm not even like a sports fan. I don't even watch much sports, but I
Yeah.
like.
I
That.
hate football.
Yeah,
But that was
But-
that's a good show.
and
Yeah.
and I love football, but I don't ever really keep up with it. I just
Yeah.
like watching it, but
For
it's a
me,
fantastic show.
like,
but
a
I'm
lot of-
very picky about like
Jacob has
docuseries.
another
yeah.
really interesting question, but you go ahead, Keith.
No, I was just say for me, a lot of what I watch is already based off of other things. So it's kind of like I kind of have an idea of like
What
okay,
it's gonna
like
be
I
about?
want to see Lock and Key, but I already know what that is because it was a graphic novel series written by Stephen King's son. So like usually they are based off like books or novel series
and
or
the other
stuff
thing-
like
and that's
that.
one thing
Or
So-
even
You-
nostalgia.
Or
Yes.
yeah,
Because like
nostalgia.
I remember my parents watching ER, and I never watched that,
Mm-hmm.
but my wife was so into Grey's Anatomy, and I'm just like, I
There's
know
gotta
that
be
there's
something
better
better.
Yes.
doctor
Yes.
shows out there, and ER is fantastic.
That's how I got
It is
into
a great
X-Files is because my grandmother watched it all the time, and I
Yep.
saw it growing up, but I didn't really pay much attention to
You didn't
it.
understand it,
And
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, and because that's a type of thing that I like, I was
Oh,
like, I'll
yeah.
give that a chance, and I love X-Files.
X-Files
Oh,
is
yeah.
fantastic.
Star
too.
Trek Next Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frasier. For
Frasier,
Jacob.
yeah.
That was a show that
Speaking of Jacob,
I never caught on.
Go ahead and read what he asked.
well, I don't have it on mine.
Oh, it
so.
says he says, "What is an immediate deal breaker for you? Either word of mouth, episode limit reached, and still not into it, etc."
Like as far as like picking one of those that it would be like okay,
or
I'm done
giving
with
up
this.
on it. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for
Yeah.
me, like, I don't even know that I give a show like 3 episodes like Sean does. Like sometimes, like
Well-
if I watch the first episode and I'm not hooked, I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm done with
There's
this.
one show recently that I only watched one episode and just couldn't do it anymore, and that was the Netflix. It's called Cursed, and it was it's the girl from 13 Reasons.
Oh
and
yes,
it's supposed to be this
Oh, that's the
Arthurian
Arthur.
legend.
Yeah, I don't like
and
that
it
either.
was absolutely
Awful.
terrible the first episode, and
Yeah.
I was just I don't think I can brave through 2 more episodes of this.
Well, see, and
it was
that,
terrible.
here's the thing that I always kind of I do in a weird way have this like internal level of like, do I think that season
Tolerance.
is gonna continue? Do I actually
Yeah.
think they're gonna renew that for another season? Because if I don't, and I can tell usually within about 1 or 2 episodes, and
Yeah.
sometimes they'll have like 3 or 4 episodes or 4 seasons before they cancel it.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest with you, it was like there were 13 reasons why I watched the whole first season.
Never watched
You-
it. I never will.
Yeah, you.
You
I
was a
love,
good- I mean, that was a
freaking
good
love
series.
You.
I didn't
Yeah.
It
watch
ain't done yet.
you either.
Oh, I know. It's got a
yeah,
third
and
season.
like
Yeah.
that was one where I it was kind of popular, and so or they kept advertising it,
Yep.
throw it in my
and
face,
that's what made me
and that's
wanna
usually
watch
what
it.
I'll do is and I'll click on it, and the first episode
Watch the
hooked
trailer
me.
of it, and then I was just like, oh,
Yeah, it was
okay.
interesting. So I was like, all right, I'll watch this, and I got hooked.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the other thing is sometimes I kind of avoid watching some new things because I'm like I've got too much that I'm paying attention to, and then there's some stuff like that'll get canceled, and I'm just like, well, crap, I don't. Now I'm looking forward to it. You just pulled the rug out from under me, so and I was actually wanting to watch that.
Yeah.
And so I'll try to gauge it based off of that if I think it's actually going to be picked up for another season or not.
No, I definitely do.
Space Force was one where I was like, absolutely not.
I got
through the first episode.
I got through
and I was
3
like,
episodes of that and quit. Yeah.
Yep. And
I was
like,
say
done.
I got as far as their training, their combat training or whatever, where that's where I quit. I think that was the 4th.
And it's
episode.
funny because the episode with the chimp in space,
I thought that was terrible.
See, I thought it was
hated that.
hilarious.
You laughed. You
I
loved
thought it was freaking
And
hilarious.
I thought it was terrible.
Yeah.
I was like, this
and
is so stupid.
But it is. It's just so funny because I'm like, there are just so many examples of. I think everybody has their own like little checklist. I think they mentally go through.
I think here's another thing, because you mentioned like worrying about a show. Like I definitely like gauge, because I don't want the show to get canceled and be screwed. Because I put so much into it. But I also think that's another reason I'm a little stringent on what I choose to watch, is because if it doesn't get canceled but it goes downhill, like I don't easily give up on a show either. If I've like watched 7 seasons of a show,
I'm gonna keep watching.
I'm gonna
it
keep
till it
watching.
ends.
Even if it goes on for 10 seasons and the last
Walking Dead.
like the last 4 seasons are.
See,
I
did.
actually
I
like
quit watching The Walking Dead.
I still like it. It got better.
But I think you're in that boat of you're one of those fans who adopted
Hardcore
it. And you've kept on.
I won't give up on a show, and then it pisses me off because I'm like, I'm just ready for this to end. Walking Dead actually went back up.
But
when
still.
they finally decided to get off of Negan.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's other, like Smallville was like that. I mean, its last 2 seasons were really good, but it had 10 seasons. So like from season 5 until season 9, it was like.
But I'm kind of like Neil and Megan too. Like I will, and even with you all watching some of those older shows, like I will kind of try to go back to some that are considered classics.
Oh yeah.
Because it is kind of interesting because now in this day and age, especially with all the streaming services and all the originals, like we're seeing a lot of the newer TV shows coming out on these streaming platforms. And because I don't have access to all of them, it was like at least back in the day you had cable network or you had network television that was competing for your eyeballs, and they were coming out with some of the best primetime stuff. And so, but you could at least flip between the channels, or they had them on different nights, and you could watch your favorite shows.
Yeah.
And so some of those that were considered classics back then, and they only had, you only have so much time in the week.
Yeah.
So they only had so many of those shows that they could air, and if it stuck like wildfire and people tuned in, then they had it for 13 seasons.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And so I do like going back and watching some of those that are considered classics and seeing if I like them, and if they do pick up, if I do see them and I like them, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll
And there's
keep
some of
watching
them
this.
that I've seen all of them, even if they weren't necessarily a classic. I mean, I've seen like Breaking Bad. I've watched all of them
Oh, yeah,
twice.
love it.
I've been
Love
through that
Breaking
twice.
Bad.
Yeah, I love
But
Breaking
Sons
Bad.
of Anarchy is one that I'm probably going to start watching again, because
And
that
that's
one
one
was
that I
one that
haven't-
wrapped up.
Yep.
That is one I
it
actually
finished perfectly.
Yeah, that's
Like,
one I
it was
actually
great.
really do want to watch, because I have heard great things about it.
It's
I
very
just haven't
violent,
started.
very
See,
violent
and
show,
and
but
that's
it's
weird. I'm
amazing.
glad
I've seen The
you-
Boys. I think I can handle
Yeah,
it.
you can handle
Yeah.
something.
But I'm glad you said it ended perfectly, because I've heard that was controversial. Was when that show ended.
Oh, it's
and it divided a lot of fans.
Yeah.
But sometimes controversial endings aren't bad. Like
Right.
they're just they don't end the way fans want.
But sometimes
but like
I
it's
don't
it
know
okay.
doesn't end the
why.
way you want it, but
But
it
I'm okay
ended
with
way better
that.
than Game of Thrones.
Well,
Like, I
that's
mean,
a plus right there.
it's
Here's
not
the
what
thing.
you want, but it's satisfying.
I expected Game
Yeah.
of Thrones to not end the way I wanted it, because it's Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What I didn't expect was for it to end in a way that made no damn sense.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But
I'm okay with every single person dying in the show.
Yeah.
But that if it makes sense.
Yes.
You know, if a dragon comes and just burns everybody, oh yes, do it. Please wipe the slate clean.
But
it
if
just
doesn't make
made
sense,
absolutely no sense to end it the way it did.
Okay.
Not with all the other seasons and all the backstory that they had. What the hell?
Yep. No, I agree. But not only that, I also am just like one of those like where even if it's divisive, that sometimes tunes me out and that keeps me from approaching a show.
Yeah.
But it is one of those where when I hear it keep being brought up in conversation, like Sons of Anarchy, and I know it has a huge fan base, and the fans who love it really love it, that does get me more excited. Because I that was how I fell in love with Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I just started watching it. It was on Netflix, and I just heard so much about it, and I was like, I'll give it a try. And I started it, loved it.
Yep.
Mad Men, same way. I thought it took me forever to get through Mad Men the first time, like especially that first season. But man, I don't know what it was, but I've watched that through at least 3 times now.
Wow. Yeah.
And I do. I love it. I don't know why, but I don't
think I ever finished it.
I
don't think I've ever seen.
And it's one of those where I completely understand if it does not hook you. I completely understand. It's slower paced.
Yeah.
And it's very. It's the way in which it weaves storylines together is a little bit more subtle than most shows. But that's what I loved about it, and I just loved that it was really just it kind of was like just a camera was being dropped down in the middle of that time period,
yeah.
and you're just watching these characters during then. But it was a good show, and I was glad I watched it. But I don't know, so many different things, so many different ways in which you can choose what you're going to binge on, and obviously that changes your viewing habits. No doubt, we just proved it.
Yep,
that's right. Facts.
We proved it.
Facts.
Don't
Right here
care
on the
about
Red
your
Moon
feelings.
Podcast.
It's proof.
It's
Yeah,
proof.
we had a lot of really good questions tonight, and I will say I appreciate that because we fed off of that.
Yes.
So I would also say that if you have other questions or suggestions on shows or anything like that, you can email us
Yeah.
at
If we don't answer 'em,
rmpodcast at
I mean-
redmoonproductions.com.
That's it. I mean, that was just
That was like a
absolutely-
bitch slap to the face, wasn't it? Now you say it, Keith.
Yeah.
Let's hear you do it.
I don't even know what we're talking about.
The email address.
Oh,
Jesus.
okay. I'll be honest. I was thinking.
You
of-
zoned
You
out.
zoned out.
I was thinking that we were talking about the comments, and I was thinking, well, the only people interacting us with are Neil and Jacob.
I don't care.
So you could tell. No, I was just saying.
They're our
You
biggest
could tell
fans.
we didn't.
Gosh.
I was just saying you could tell we weren't eating a pepper this week because last week we had way more people.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, look here. I am fine and willing to put your all's body through hell.
Yeah.
If we'll get
Like
more.
apparently
viewers,
they only
okay?
love us when we're hurting ourselves.
We're mulling over new ideas.
Look, we're willing.
No, but I am very thankful for Neil and Jacob's questions because
Yes,
they were great
very good.
questions. And,
And
yes,
anybody's.
if anybody has questions, you don't have to wait to comment. You can email us at rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com.
Absolutely.
That's
we-
what I said.
Our podcast at redmoonproductions.com, right?
Right.
Right. That's fact.
Amen.
All right, guys. I think that is going to do it for this week on the Red Moon Podcast. As always, you can check us out every single week here, Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. on YouTube, on Facebook, live. Check out our uploaded audio podcast on Thursdays. Comes up as soon as you wake up. Guarantee you.
Wow.
Okay? As soon as you wake up.
Guaranteed.
I've been slacking on that a little
Besides the couple
bit, but it
times
does
that it's
come
not.
out, okay? All right, guys. That's going to do it for this week. Next week, we will have our review, finally,
Of Tenet.
of Tenet.
And we don't plan on changing it like this time.
No,
You know.
no, that's definitely too big a movie for us to change it.
Yeah.
So, guys, until next time, I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
and
Keith Cheatham.
so finally, we can say it. We'll see
see
you
you
at the
at the
movies. Keith totally left us out.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.